just want to introduce you with an idea. So very shortly, where this idea is coming from and the context of the idea. This is an outcome of a research that we did between 2015 and 2018 with a group of academics around the world in the field of architecture and urbanism. And the aim of this research was actually to look at the history of architecture and the most recent history of architecture, and to observe and study the way that the profession of architecture is in transition, and especially after the change of state from the social state to a neoliberal state. So actually the general idea behind this work is we realized that we use the term architecture for many different activities that during the history human beings were doing. Many of them related to human habitats, but not even necessarily. So here I tried to just categorize them under 6 different categories. So very shortly, I would say from the first steps that humans, all different kinds of humans had on the earth till today, we have something that's called culture of habitation. Like all the other animals, humans tries to establish their own habitat and widen their niches, ecological niches, to find more food, to have more comfort, climate, and all of this. And this is done by regular people. This is controlled by culture. The knowledge is transmitted from generations to generations, and this is mostly outside of what is called today architecture. And however, many of the architectural history books starts with showing some images from Neanderthals or first Homo sapiens, and the way that they built their first tents or their first habitation in the caves, which is which has no relation with architecture. And that kind of habitation still exists, and it's still lots of people around the world build their own houses and their gardens and their villages and their habitats, and they define their interaction with the earth and all the other living beings. However, after the settlements, after human beings settled down and established first big villages and rich cities, what we call it civilization, probably something around 15,000 years ago till 10,000 to 15,000 years ago. The first big buildings that claim kind of immortal life, and they act against the rules of nature, actually use some kind of construction materials that they can live longer, and their sizes are bigger than the size of the needs of human beings, and the details that are worked on them is over the needs, actually, so answers some other needs, probably something that maybe we call it aesthetics or something else, emerge. And usually that's buildings that used for the purpose of the representation of power. Lots of temples, lots of palaces, and lots of city walls, and other big structures that from the first cities till the cities of Middle Age are built by traditional architects or traditional builder craftsmen. Is under this category. By the beginning of the Renaissance, we have something that is called architectural design discipline, and this is the combination of art and technology in a way that we can have a rapid production of space or construction of buildings. And this is a different discipline, this is a knowledge that even from the beginning it started fighting with the traditional craftsmen and trying to get the power over those traditional builders. So from here, the establishment of what was called profession of architecture started. So I'm going to go a little bit more details about it, to introduce you a little bit more in detail about it. However, in 19th century, the profession of architecture is emerged, and one of the first countries that we had professional architects in the modern term was United Kingdom, with the establishment of Royal Society, what's called today Royal Institute of British Architects, in 1836, if I remember correctly. And then, yeah, of architectural schools gained power, and the regulations of the state empowered them to create lots of the spaces needed for the modern state and colonizing their countries and the other countries at the same time. However, by the introduction of the neoliberalism and changing the direction of the social state, this profession lost its validity and its role, because the state was not supporting it and there was no kind of social architecture anymore existed. So the graduates of architectural schools never could, rarely could open their offices as the previous pre-1980s graduates of architecture usually were doing, and rarely could get their own projects. But the offices of architecture started becoming bigger and bigger, and as part of the global chains, and also not restricted with the design, but also they joined with working for construction and real estate development, and they became part of the real estate development business. The last one, which is called Spatial Agency and Activism, I'm going to talk a little bit more on it, is also a new form of activity of architects or designers of space that shaped in the last 30-40 years, and I'm going to give you some examples. Before go to that, as a very short summary, I want to talk a little bit about the interrelation between space production and urbanization, and the way that today's spaces are actually organized, and they are organizing us as well. So here you can see a chicken factory or farm, and you can see that very regularly lots of chickens are in small cages, and a person who is taking care of them and spraying some poisons on them in the middle. It's very similar to today's urbanization and the urban life that we have, because first of all, before 19th century, it was impossible to put this huge amount of chickens inside these cages. Anybody has any idea why before 19th century was impossible to do that? Okay, no brave voice. Okay, yeah, probably because of the dependency of this kind of system to the fossil fuel. Before 19th century, it was impossible to do that, because if you have such a place, you need to heat it, you need to cool it, you need to bring lots of food at the same time to this amount of chicken. You need to transfer lots of medicines, you need to transfer the products of this system to the places to sell. So before 19th century, if you produce this huge amount of eggs, you couldn't even sell them because you couldn't carry them to the population that you need. So the I mean, usage of the fossil fuel is one of the main reasons that created this today's life. And as you can see, this one of the most important similarities of today's urbanization and this cage. And there are lots of the others as well, but I don't want to talk a lot. I promise to talk only 20 minutes. So the other one that I want to emphasize is that, you know, how vulnerable is this system? If this person who is taking care of this, I mean, seems that he's taking care of these chickens, one day will not come for any reason, all these chickens will die because they cannot go and find food. That's the same about our society, and unluckily today, because of the COVID conditions, we see the same conditions around the world. You might saw it, but if you didn't, I would really invite you to check it. How many people in India died on the roads going back to their village because of the COVID-19 restrictions that, you know, the government created in different cities in the last few months. Basically, they closed the cities. They said that you cannot go out, and most of the seasonal workers that they were in the cities just to work in that season had to return to their village, and because nobody gave them a service of transportation to their village, lots of children died on the roads. That's the same for all of us. If we cannot go outside like these chickens, we cannot buy anything because we have to buy, because we cannot produce anything that we need. So we are absolutely vulnerable and dependent to the governments to come and feed us, or to the capitalist system, to the market, to the supermarkets, to all these. We need to have money, we need to have supermarkets open, and we need to have a way that to go to the supermarkets and buy something. And this is not at all resilient. So it is not resilient for one another reason as well. I don't know what happened. Do you see my slides? Okay. So it is not resilient. The other reason is that this kind of lifestyle has a huge footprint. This is not only a huge carbon footprint, but it is also a huge, you know, environmental and, you know, what can be called Earth footprint. So the resources of the Earth that is needed to continue and sustain this kind of lifestyle must be unlimited. Some graphics in this left part, it shows how many of those countries is needed to be used to offer the same lifestyle that people of that country are having. So people of South Korea are consuming 8.4 times of South Korea. And people of United Kingdom, they're consuming almost 4 times of the UK. So that means that, yeah, UK is not enough for the people of UK. So what can it be done? So, I mean, the easiest answer is that some other countries in the world need to use less than the resources that their country are providing, and that means colonization. The second answer is UK can use the resources of the future generations instead of using the resources that this generation has. So that means, I mean, there are lots of graphics. I didn't want to make it very busy, but there is a very interesting graphic that shows the amount of natural resources that each country uses during the last 100 century, last 100 year, and per capita is reduced. So if in 19th century per capita, the amount of resources we had in the United Kingdom was here, today is here. So the future generation will have this much. So that means that we are using the resources of the future. In the middle one, you see how many planet Earth is needed to sustain the lifestyle of people in these countries. So if everybody in the world will live like people in the United States, we will need 5 planet Earth. If everybody lives in a way that people in the United Kingdom lives, we will need 3 planet Earth, but we have only 1 planet Earth. And that means that we have to change our way of living and the way that we approach to all of these, and we change it to a more resilient one. And the right one, which I would love to talk a lot about it's about extinction of the biodiversity. From the first day that human beings lived on the planet Earth till 100 years ago, human beings killed 1/3 of all the species on the planet. So if we had 100 species in the planet, 33 of them were killed in the last 300,000 years. The other 1/3 is killed in the last 100 years. So today we have only 1/3 of the wildlife remains. That means that if we continue this way, in a very near future, we will have a huge planet without any wildlife, and that means that we will die. So one of the animals that are in the list of extinction is human being because of the result of the extinction of all the other animals. So this is another reason for us to change our lifestyle. So what I mean by changing our lifestyle, I mean dualism of production consumption based on the usage of the fossil resources or the resources of the future generations, gain, some more, to create some more power in the hand of the 1% special groups of people in the world needs to be changed. All the images that you see here are somehow addressing the way that we have the production system today. So we use all these industrial technologies to produce as much as possible for the consumption of the majority. And by doing it, we create a very huge power in the hand of minority, and not even minority, but the rare people, 1% top of the societies. So, and the way that we are approaching, like this, similar the one that I show you in the chicken farm, we are trying to colonize the life of all the beings on this planet. So yeah, I mean, I talked about chickens, so it's good to underline that 70% of all the birds living on the planet today are domesticated birds, and it's really, really dangerous number. But it's not, I mean, we are not only domesticating birds, but we are domesticating lands, we are domesticating and colonizing spaces, needs of people, and we are colonizing even cultures of people, and changing all of these to a culture of consumption. And I mean, the way that, has actually very temporal value, and the only value that remains now is their exchange value that is compared, as money. So, however, how it is, how we came to this point, actually, Michel Foucault has a great book that is called Discipline and Punish, and actually it speaks about prison, but actually it speaks about education. So, architectural education started in a very parallel time that, Michel Foucault speaks about all this discipline and punishment in the prisons and in the age of post-Renaissance. And basically, the aim of this discipline and punish is to create a very monocultural, approach to knowledge, and a very colonized one that, it includes some correctness that will be applied everywhere. Because why this is important? Because industry needs it. If everybody will be creative in creating diverse modes of producing space with diverse materials and with diverse ways of doing it, then the industry cannot do that, but it must be done by people. But industry doesn't need people. Industry needs to make it as cheap as possible. So because of that, we have architectural techniques that comes from industrial drawings, and it is only useful for producing spaces with industrial machines. Otherwise, for a COP building, you cannot draw any drawings of it, because it is not possible to produce it in a way that you draw, because each soil you use for your COP will be different. So the thickness of each wall will be different, so that the way you create any detail there will be different based on lots of local issues and based on the skills of the worker that in that time is working there. So what I mean, all this knowledge is useful only and only when you create industrial production. And when you create industrial production means that you cannot build it yourself, and you cannot find the materials yourself. You have to buy somebody to come and help you. You have to buy some materials to build it, and you have to buy the property to do that. You have to get all the permissions. And then during all of these procedures that created by the system, for you to have a shelter on top of your head, you know, the power creates the domination that will, the first outcome of this domination of the power on you it will be the accumulation of power and money in the hands of the minority. However, these were all very radical critics of what we have today in the world as architecture. But I want to introduce you to two very interesting books that both of them are online, and they will really, you know, they are collections of lots of other ways of doing architecture projects. Even I don't like to tell them project, because project is also another terminology related to industrial production and business management and all of these. So these books, one of them is was a very long-term actually research project that is finalized as a book. It's called the Spatial Agency, Other Ways of Doing Architecture, and the other one is Enabling City. And both of these books are mostly online, so I'm going to show you this online websites of these books, and then okay, let me just to show the website. Something goes wrong here. Oops. What happened? Do you see that? The website? Okay. Okay, now it's correct. Okay, so this is the website of Spatial Agency, and here there are 3 questions written here: how, why, where, and why. And based on these questions, actually the research team categorized diverse projects under them. So many of you, for example, have projects related to networking. You are aiming to bring networking as one of the main, you know, goals of your project. So if you go to under networking here, you will see around 20, 25 diverse projects in the world that, brought networking as the main, topic of them. So yeah, there are lots of things to learn from here, from this one. And then the second one that I want to show, does it change? No? Okay. So this is Enabling Cities project, and they published until now 2 books. Yeah, this is the main website. So if you go to the read, you will come to the two books that are published by Enabling Cities. And yes, I'm going to go to the first one, if I can. Yes. So again, you know, as you can see, they categorize the diverse projects under placemaking, eating, growing, resource sharing, learning and socializing, steering and organizing, and financing. So you can just go to these projects, and I mean, here are the introduction parts, and then yes. So from here, the projects are started to be introduced. So if you can read the very short note that it's here about these projects, you will realize that some of these projects, you know, will take your attention, and you can just Google or go to the website of these projects and find out more information about it. So I mean, this one, for example, city repair project. This is one of the examples is here. They have over 100 different projects they did with communities just to provide more public space for the community. And some of them are very, very simple, but the impacts are actually great. So the other one is Transition Network. Actually, it's something that started in the UK and from Totnes, and today around 300 cities in the world network under this movement. And I mean, if you go to their websites, you will learn them. Yeah. So coming back to my presentation and trying to finalize my talk of today is, you know, spatial agency or spatial activism is a new way of doing architecture, actually. And the way that it is done is, instead of waiting for a client to come to you and order a new project for you, architects feel that they have a social role in creating a transition in the society and helping the communities to empower themselves, especially the ones that they are underprivileged, they don't have access to many education like healthcare, like housing, or all of these. And by doing this, actually, they go, for example, I mean, one of the examples of city repair project is what they did for homeless people. So they go to the homeless people, they go to the city, go to the funding bodies, they try to find some money to build some houses and the village for the homeless people that provide them not only shelter, but also some sources of gardening and creating foods and finding jobs, learning some skills and some other things. So I mean, architects are not sitting in their offices and waiting for the clients to come to them and say that, okay, you have to do something for homeless people. But this kind of architects who feel that they are spatial activists or agents, you know, they feel that they can go and do something for their society or something for their planet, and they try to find fundings for it, and they try to find the best place that can be done. I mean, there are lots of examples in the UK. I saw lots of architectural offices here doing some kind of public works similar to this. In smaller cities, they go to the municipality, to the city council, and saying that the building here is left out, so we have an idea to turn it